Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show, coming to you live today from the SiriusXM headquarters in New York City. We are only 6 months into President Trump's historic second term, but that has not stopped speculation about who's going to run for president in 2028. I gave a speech, as you guys know, last week out in Vail, and everyone there wanted to know who's the likely next Republican and who's the likely next Dem. I don't have a crystal ball, but I keep seeing the same names you guys are seeing. And over on Team Blue, one name keeps coming up is Rahm Emanuel. Okay, he's the former Chicago mayor. He was Obama's one-time White House chief of staff. He certainly has a top-shelf political resume and is deeply connected to the Democrats' massive fundraising operation. And unlike some of the loons over on the other side, he's a centrist. He's an actual centrist. We've talked about his potential candidacy many times here on the Megyn Kelly Show. Is he too centrist for his party? He's made a lot of enemies inside the Democratic Party over the years, and we'll ask him about how that might affect his potential chances. Joining me now to discuss his life and career and future potential political career is Rahm Emanuel. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. A lot of you may have some kind of extra car just sitting around. Maybe it's an older model you don't drive anymore. Maybe it's that second vehicle collecting dust in the driveway. Or maybe, yes, it's the one that hasn't moved in months and you're not even sure it still runs. Whatever it is, if you are not using it, you could be donating it. And here's a better idea than letting it rot. Donate it to Cars for Kids. That's Cars with a K. They've been doing this for over 30 years, taking a million vehicle donations by this point. That's amazing. And they make the process super easy for you. You're going to wonder why you didn't do it sooner. Free towing, fast pickup, no hassle. And you get a tax-deductible receipt. You donate your car, running or not, and Cars for Kids will turn it into funding for children's programs across the country. And let's not forget the jingle, 1-877-CARS-FOR-KIDS. I don't totally remember the exact 1-877 Cars for Kids. I would sing it, but I don't remember the tune. But yes, I remember the commercials. And this is one of them. Go to carsforkids.org/MK. That's Cars with a K. carsforkids.org/MK. It's fast, it's smart, and it helps kids. carsforkids.org/MK. Donate your car today. Rahm, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So what are you doing here on the Megyn Kelly Show?
I got a free hour. I thought I'd just come by, swing by. Yeah, I thought there was lunch. I thought we were going to have.
There will be.
We're going to have brunch or something.
There will be. We'll have ice cream. We'll have bonbons.
To talk about the issues, talk about things.
But you know, a lot of Democrats won't come on the show because they don't want to talk to somebody like me. So why would you?
Well, I mean, you kind of started it because you've brought me up before, and I thought, well, if you're going to bring me up a couple times, I'll come on the show. Since my favorite subject is me, I thought I'd do that. No, but to talk about things, and you say from Team Blue, which is fair. I get that, but I think you would agree. And I think your listeners would. There's Team USA before there's Team Blue and Team Red.
I know. We see everything through the political lens.
Yeah.
Just because that's what we do
so
every day.
So that's why. And people have opinions. I'm going to talk about what I think and also, kind of just rip the mask off.
All right. Let's start with this because, I came of age as a reporter at Fox News. And my show...
There's a 10-step program for that.
I'm not looking to recover, though there were some years where I was. And my friend Sean Hannity used to refer to you every night as Rahm Deadfish Emanuel.
Oh.
And there is a story behind that.
Yeah.
What happened?
Okay, so you got to, I don't know how much time, but I'll cycle it fast.
That's good.
1988, I'm political director of the Democratic Congressional Campaign, political. And it's the presidential year, George Bush. Kemp seat, upstate New York. We have this.
Those are my people.
Dave Schwartz, candidate, clerk of the county, and he said that if he gets within a single digit, he's going to take a second mortgage. We go from 36 down, 24 down, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden a poll comes back, and it was, 5 polls in a row. He's just 4 or 5 points, 6 points, narrowing it, and it blows up 18. And about 4, and so he says, forget about it. It's like 9 days out.
Wait, refresh me. Who's winning and who's losing? The Republicans winning?
The Republicans winning, but the Democrats closing in consistently over 2 months.
Okay, he's closing the gap.
And then blows back out 18 points. And the campaign manager figures out that the pollster had polled the wrong group.
Oh, gosh.
And obviously we weren't going to win a lot of races, but to symbolically win in 1988, Jack Kemp's seat would have bigger than a single district. It would have big national import. And it was too late then, with 7 days to go, to really impact. Dave Schwartz goes on to lose by a few points in a presidential year. So myself and a number of people sent the Democratic pollster a dead fish for costing us a seat. And I happen to sign it out. It was great working with you, et cetera. So the pollster comes back after 2 weeks. The dead fish was in a box.
Oh, God.
And opens it up, stinking, da-da-da, sends me this long 8-page, single-spaced letter of how horrible it was working for me. And then this moment in time becomes kind of mythological of that.
Yes.
So that's where...
Did you like it? Did you like the reputation, or you don't like it?
It's, like all things, not you, just because you work at Fox doesn't capture who you are. It doesn't capture who I am. When it comes to my kids, I'm quick to a tear. You wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
When it comes to other people's kids, I'm also quick to a tear. I get very emotional. My kids always say, "You're not allowed to talk about us, Grandpa or Dad." And on the other hand, I did it, so I own it, and I did do it because he cost us a seat because he made a mistake.
But see, now...
And I'm unmerciful in that sense when it came to winning.
Well, this is probably why I was saying...
That may be also, not to interrupt you.
No, you go ahead.
This is your show after all, is I'm a middle child. And I always joke that middle children wrote a book, War or Peace. We could do either one.
Mm-hmm. But I think this is actually to your advantage in capturing this nomination, because I think the country likes a strong man, even though we were kind of pretending we didn't for a while. Yeah. And I think Democrats are in need of a strong man. I mean, I think too many in the party have gone along with the, no, we have to be... everyone's toxically masculine and we have to overcorrect the other way. And they keep putting out...
I don't know the words to Kumbaya. So here's my thing is, one is when having worked for both President Clinton and President Obama. And if you look at it, and also an avid reader of presidential history in general, there are 3 qualities a president and a presidential candidate have to project: strength, confidence, and optimism. Nobody, if you look at history, Kennedy versus Nixon, just go through it. We never nominate the weaker or the more indecisive or the less optimistic, just full blown. Second, and then that's on a comparative basis. And second, winning is important. And I do think there's a currency in our party, and this is my theory of the case at least, where both candor, authenticity, and strength have a currency and have a blame. I kind of say that, and then there was an article the other day, and I forgot what paper it was, either the Washington Post or Politico, that said Democrats were studying authenticity. Well, you can't study authenticity either. That's such a kind of what's wrong? You can't manufacture your authenticity. You either are who you are or you're not, and I'm comfortable with who I am.
They're studying, too, how to speak to young men.
Yeah.
Do you know why they're doing that?
Well, one is there's a simple, they've lost it with young men for a whole host of reasons. And the other thing is because you date your time there, I'd say basically COVID forward, maybe even a little before that, our party had everybody, including ourselves, walking on eggshells. It was so PC, you couldn't even, God forbid you had a thought privately to yourself and you were scared and jumped, and literally you had this kind of flinch all the time. And that's ridiculous. And people did not, and not just young men, it was also, if you look at the data, even young women were tired of basically just a PC type thinking and talking about stuff, and also this idea that you had to walk on eggshells. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, Republicans have the same kind of thing where people jump on them all the time, et cetera, inside their own party.
Mm. They're not PC, though. It's for different issues. I mean, if you criticize President Trump within the Republican Party, depending on who you're talking to, you could get blowback. Though I think Republicans are more fractured and always have been than Democrats.
It's always...
I feel like Democrats stick together.
We both admire the other party's sense of loyalty.
So do you feel like Democrats are more fractured internally in general as a group than Republicans are? Well,
it's kind of Mark Twain's original. I'm a part of no organized party. I'm a Democrat. Mm-hmm. Look, I think Democrats, as you can see recently, have a little bit of a firing squad on the circle. Take a look recently. People, you can say whatever you want, and I have my disagreements, a lot of them, countless with President Trump, but he has brought us a level of discipline and loyalty. Take a look at this. On the big, beautiful bill, which I have my own criticisms of, people have voted for something they criticize, and now as soon as they've done it, they're trying to airbrush their record. Take a look at Senator Hawley. He's now trying to eliminate all the Medicaid cuts that he just voted for.
That was a big
So has the
big deal
president
for him.
brought loyalty? There's an example A of what kind of loyalty he's brought.
Do you feel like the Dems have changed on the PC, the over-the-top PC language police? I mean, because that's trickled down. I know you care deeply about education. That's
Right.
trickled down into my kids' single-digit education all the way up through high school.
Well, some elements yes, and some elements not. This is what does when you get to education. Well, I mean, to me, you know, at another point in my life, early before I decided to go into public service or politics, I was going to be an early childhood educator. That's what interested me. My dad was a pediatrician. It was something that drew me. And there is this kind of, you know, the fundamentals of education we have missed. We now have the worst reading scores in 30 years, the worst math scores, and we're focused on everything but the most important thing, which
Yeah.
is why you have 3 children, I have 3 children, why parents send kids to school to support the type of education we also try to do at home. And we've gotten focused, as I said, on things like bathroom access rather than classroom excellence. We've gotten focused, and I'm sensitive to one person's pronoun versus the other 35 kids in the class that don't know what a pronoun is. And I'm sorry, 35 kids not knowing what a pronoun is, having your worst reading scores or math scores in 30 years, we have a crisis on hand. Going back to Ronald Reagan's time where Bloom wrote the report, A Nation at Crisis, we're back to where we started, and we better focus on the priority. This is tomorrow. These are our kids. And I do think not just Democrats, but everybody, from the naming of a school to bathroom access to who's playing in what sports, and we've lost sight of the forest for the trees. And I think that's really, we're supposed to be the adults and take care of our kids and nurture them.
Oh, I don't disagree. We need to work on the basic reading and math scores. But I feel like the Democrats are the ones who introduced things like pronouns and the bathroom access. And those of us on what I call the side of sanity stood up to say, no, you're not putting your 6-foot tall boy in my daughter's 8th grade soccer class or gym class. And that doesn't make me trying to ignore what's important about math and reading.
Right.
It's a Democrat-created problem.
Well, let me back you up a little. Not wrong about those examples. And we have I want to say one thing here and I do a shout out for Mississippi. It's called the Mississippi Miracle. 10 years ago, they started this. Very tough demographics. Their reading excellence, unbelievable. Alabama on math. And I would nationalize that. I would say we're taking this at large because they've shown with some of the toughest constituencies, poor kids, children from single parent homes, black kids, to make major gains in both math and reading. That's A. B, yes, Democrats played a role, but there's also politicization, culture wars by Republicans on what topics we're allowed to talk about, how we're allowed to talk about them. Do I think Democrats led that in kind of this whole pronoun debate? No doubt. And that's why they basically, and it's gotten us sidetracked. And we're stuck in a cold, not only a party, but more importantly, a country. And it's why, to be honest, I have my own view on what I would do on education. I call it TART if I could. T for technology. And we should get kids ready with AI capabilities. A for attendance. We have a massive post-COVID attendance problem. It's triple digits from where it was. And I would have a national, more than 7%. You repeat the grade.
And absenteeism in a lot of the big cities is up to 30% right now.
You have kids graduating high school with a 20% absentee rate. That means they're not graduating. They don't have the skills to go on to college, and it's going to be remedial education.
We're pretending.
Right. R for reading, and using the Mississippi example to blow it up nationally, take it to every state. And T for truth. Parents should know where their kids are every grade level on national standards and where their kids' schools are at meeting those national levels for every grade. To me, if you do that type of thing, we can start to focus again on the most important thing. Why I, as a parent of 3, why you as a parent of 3, why a parent of 2, 1, whatever, send those kids to school. It's why parents move, like as I can say, as a mayor of the city of Chicago. You know how you knew a neighborhood was doing well? On the real estate forum, they would say they're here in this school district. Mm-hmm. That meant that school district became a magnet for that area. And to me, that's the most important thing, because we live in a time where you earn what you learn. And we need to ensure that every child has a chance to live up to their potential. And it starts at school. But I fundamentally believe there are 3 doors a child walks through that will explain their future. The front door of the home, the front door of the school, and the front door of the place of worship. And if those 3 doors are aligned, I don't care your zip code, I don't care your family background, I don't care your income. That child's got a future.
Mm-hmm. You know, I love hearing that, and I think we need to get back to that kind of a focus. I have my doubts because my own experience has been with a rising, as they say, about to go into 6th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade. Is there's just been so much ideological nonsense shoved down their throats. And we came out of New York City privates. That's where we were up until we fled in 2021 to get away from that and move to Connecticut. But it was so over the top, Rahm. I mean, you want them to focus on reading. Now, obviously, New York City private schools are elite schools. They don't have to worry about reading scores and math generally there. But my point is, in these schools, my boys' school, they took 3 weeks to devote to transgenderism. 3 weeks at an all-boys school trying to get these boys to spend time on whether you're sure you're a boy, might you not be totally sure, raise your fist, 5 if you're totally sure, 4 if you're only a little. I mean, it was crazy showing them videos of men and boys and skirts and dresses and makeup. Crazy indoctrination. Right. And it's not just New York City, so it's like, to me, it's so much more than a culture war. You're messing with a child's mental health when it's abusive.
Look, again, I'm going to get back the 3 doors. Your kids are going to be okay. They come from I don't know you, they come from a loving home, and they have the support. Basically, school backs up the education of child, which is my one, if I can take a side note. I totally hate this term homeschooled. Every child's homeschooled. Every child. It's a horrible term because it assumes that, no, every child's homeschooled. The school reinforces the capabilities that the home nurtures. And the other door, the place of worship, which is important for a child's total character development.
Very true.
Okay, now, was and is and does it continue cultural wars in this country? Yeah, it does. I happen to think it happens on both sides. That's the way I look at it, et cetera. Things that like topics like slavery that are totally kind of trying to be airbrushed out of history books. That's a cultural war. You may not see it the same way. I think you do. The fact is, we teach kids, and we should basically focus on the fundamentals and get back to the fundamentals. I do think, as it relates to, and I did this as mayor, 2016, ambassador. I worked with. You got an issue, and you're working through on your pronoun, et cetera. I respect that. I come from an inclusive kind of culture, but it is not the preoccupation for the rest of the class. The preoccupation for the class.
So you want the schools to stop pushing that stuff?
Here's my thing. Look, in 2016, I signed and passed an ordinance in City Council as it relates to bathroom access. But my focus as mayor was on graduation rates.
But just to be clear, in that you were on the side of the trans people having access to the bathroom of choice.
We dealt with that. It was an issue.
I'll give you that. Trump was also on that same side back in 2016, but has changed. Have you changed?
No, my position, not from an inclusive standpoint. My point is, though, it's not the dominant issue.
I get it.
And so, to me...
But to a lot of us, it's really important.
I get that, and you'll make choices.
Well, that's why I'm trying to nail you down on where you are.
I got what you're trying to do, and I'm trying to be the ballet dancer I was.
I know. But if you're going to really run for this position...
No, but here's the thing.
You're going to have to take a position on it.
Here's the thing. I'll give you an example. When I was an ambassador to Japan. Trans people working in the embassy. We worked on what our job was. That wasn't the focus. I respected what you made a choice, and also they're an adult. You're talking about kids, slightly very different.
Very, very different.
And a parent has a right to speak up at the school about this. My point, though, on this whole subject, though, Megyn, we are talking about. Let me give you an example. We're spending now, 8 minutes on this. There's 50 million.
That's only because you won't give me a straight answer. We can move on if you give me a straight answer.
I'm giving you a straight answer.
Let me give you. I'll give you a rapid fire. 50 million kids go to public schools, to schools in elementary education in America. We're talking about 0.01%. Okay, I get it, but I know.
I don't think it.
But I know people who have been hurt by the boys who are participating in the sports
and
so on, and they matter.
As a father of both a son and 2 girls. They are fundamentally physically different, and we have to. That's just biology.
Yeah.
And get that.
Okay, so
As it relates to sports.
So let me just ask you a couple of things quickly. So do you believe boys should be able to play in girls' sports?
No.
Do you believe that?
Is this the round robin?
Yeah, we'll do a quick rapid fire, and then we can move past this.
Okay.
Do you believe that kids under the age of 18 should be able to be put on puberty blockers and then cross-sex hormones?
I think parents have to make that decision themselves. I think that a child is too young at 18 to make that decision. It has to be made with a family and that choice. I think before somebody makes a life decision, they have to think twice about that.
So you disagree then with the Tim Walz policy in Minnesota, where a child who doesn't get affirmed by his parents can go into Minnesota and get jurisdiction there and get the parental decision overruled?
Yeah, look, I think these are life decisions, and I'm also slightly both. I have two minds, not two minds, but two strains that influence an opinion. One, this is a life decision, and a child can't make that decision. You have to have some moral development and character and judgment and foundation for that. Two, parents have to be involved in that, and I think that's for them to make. I don't think the public should be in that space.
What if, there are some parents out there who are completely whacked in the head. There really are. They're
well,
not
that's not
all,
news, is it?
But it's
not
it's
just no.
No, it's not news. But to me, it's terrifying because
And I left this out, but I want to repeat it is. I have a son and two daughters, and they are physically different, and that's why when it comes to sports.
Why did all the Democrats bail off of that point? The couple came out right after the election and they said what you just said, and then they got browbeaten, and then they started to walk back.
The answers in the question. That's not ever scared me. And I used to say this to President Clinton and President Obama: sound is not always fury. Sometimes it's just sound. And don't assume just because somebody's screaming at you, they represent more than their own voice.
Should we be putting men in female prisons? Men claiming they're women?
No.
And all right, here's my last one for you. Can a man become a woman?
Can a man become a woman? No.
Thank you.
No.
That's so easy. Why don't more people in your party just say that?
Because I'm now going to go into a witness protection plan.
My money's on you.
Yeah.
I think you'll be fine. No, it's just so nice to hear the truth said.
Okay, we spent too much time on this.
Without qualifications.
Yeah, well, it just can't happen.
Let's talk about...
I'm not saying medically. I'm just saying it can't happen.
I got it.
Right.
Let's talk about our cities.
Okay.
And NAFTA, because I know you had a role in NAFTA. Sure. And NAFTA has become so controversial now, this North American Free Trade Agreement, that had the net result of shipping a bunch of American manufacturing jobs overseas or down to Mexico. And it's become super controversial with both parties. You can look back and find, in-depth articles in the New York Times and, of course, over on National Review and the Wall Street Journal about what this has done to American manufacturing. My friend Tucker and many others have made this like a central plank that they want in discussions, which is how bad American cities have become. How you step out of the train station at Union Station in Washington and you're stepping over homeless people. I went out for a premiere of a TV show in LA, literally stepping over homeless encampments just to get to the building, like open air drug markets in some cities in California and further north in the Pacific Northwest. Here in New York City, you've got human excrement on the street. You've got trash cans constantly overflowing. And
that's why New York needs alleys like Chicago.
Chicago, don't even get started. Okay. Listen, Chicago had a heyday. I lived there. I was there for 5 years under Mayor Daley. Those days are behind it. But this is my principal question to you, okay? Because Tucker and many others will use that as an opening to say, and therefore, why are we giving money to Ukraine? And I get that point. But I think, there's another question to be asked, which is, does it have to do with federal money at all? Is the condition of our cities really to blame on the feds, or is it to blame on Democrat mayors in those cities and decisions like NAFTA that outshipped all the jobs that kept them thriving?
Let's go. You got like 7 questions there, so let me try to peel through all 8 answers.
Okay.
One, first let me give a shout out that's being lost in the national debate to cities. We're on course right now, and I talked to the mayor of Baltimore, Birmingham, Little Rock, and Cleveland in the rest of the probably the lowest homicide rate in recorded history. Baltimore's experienced the lowest homicide rate right now since 1968. So while there
how's Chicago doing?
Chicago's also a reduction. Also,
but come on.
Wait a second. Look, I'm with you on homeless. I get the open drug market. Nobody's been more outspoken about that, and you can go through my tenure, but that doesn't obscure or brush out, and I disagree with you on this one point, that crime is on both homicide rates, violent, and also property crimes on historic lows. It's a fact that's happening.
No, they said that last year, and it was debunked by the FBI.
No, the FBI numbers. Just anyway, you can look at the. We're going to. You and I are going to disagree on this
That's
one.
Fine.
It is on course for historic low levels. Now, as it relates to homeless encampments, I think municipalities, mayors have been way too permissive in a culture, as it relates also to drug markets. Way too permissive in a culture, not just for businesses, but most importantly for families and for children.
Giving out needles.
Yeah, and I think that the example, Mayor in San Francisco, at least what I've read, the mayor in San Francisco, I think, has got now the right approach to how to handle both of these issues. And it's also pretty clear, I can say this as I was ambassador to Japan, came back for the Asia Pacific Conference in San Francisco. When a city wants to clear out homelessness, all of a sudden it happens when you have a bunch of foreign dignitaries. So when their own residents want it, you should actually be as vigilant as you were when foreign dignitaries come.
Well, and you tell me Japan doesn't have this problem in its cities.
They also have a different type of social system, and that's a longer conversation than this show permits. Second piece, and I would just not have a permissive culture in that. And Portland has now realized the wrongs of their ways. Parts of Seattle. You cannot allow a zone for open, quote unquote, drug markets. It then becomes a permission slip to a whole host of other type of social and criminal aspects. So that's a massive don't go there. Now, two things that I think are really important. One is, I think the president himself kept basically the structures of NAFTA, and after by the end of President Clinton's term, just a fact, there were 300,000 more manufacturing jobs than when he came in. Now, I think there was a mistake made, and no doubt about it. You can't leave Peoria, Battle Creek, Racine, Kenosha to confront on their own. There was not enough support, not enough investment. Americans always succeed when you invest both in America and Americans. That's why I'm big about education, big about the investments in technology and in our strengths. The bigger challenge, I would say, is not so much NAFTA, but is what happened with China.
Yep.
That's where you really had a fundamental, and big swaths of America were left basically to fend for themselves against the PRC, the Chinese Communist Party, and their strategy. And that's where you've seen the devastation. Now, do I think everything should be cleaned up? You've learned certain things after a certain point, vis-a-vis NAFTA, et cetera. I do. Both parties have kept it in place, the basic structure, because it's better to have, as Ronald Reagan said, two neighbors that are allies working with you, because that's a large economy and also brings the capacity to focus on other parts of the world. Second, though, China coming into the WTO with all of us hoping they would stay as strategic competitors, not realizing that President Xi in 2012 decided that China was going to become a strategic adversary. And that, unchecked, as you can see right now, both with the United States and the European Union dealing with China, that is where we've had a major devastation to the United States.
So what would you say to men in those cities like Detroit wondering where their manufacturing job went? What's the Rahm Emanuel plan to bring it back?
One is build, baby, build. And my basic point is we are short right now, not tomorrow, not looking to the future, which we are also short. Massive amount of investment in carpenters, electricians, plumbers, operating engineers, the whole building trade. You can't AI that away, and you can't get it to China.
How do we do that?
So I'm going to tell you one thing.
High school level?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you one thing we did in Chicago that I think should be a national program. And you have to hire career counselors, et cetera. You could not we made it a requirement, starting your freshman year, we gave you support. You could not get your high school diploma without showing a letter of acceptance from either a college, community college, a branch of the armed forces, or a vocational school. You had not just the Kelly children and the Emanuel children, but every child had to have a post-high school plan. We changed the high school from a diploma-driven to a career college-driven. And what comes next? There, you ensure that every child invest. And let me say one side note. If you look at the American history, there are three great periods of economic growth, all underpinned by one thing. There's the land-grant colleges under Lincoln. There are the universal high school education at the turn of the century, and the GI Bill. You could also add probably a fourth, NASA in the science and engineering and basically STEM as a challenge to Sputnik. When you invest in Americans, America succeeds.
Just to be clear, because there's a lot of my audience, understandably, has questions about whether the modern day college education is a worthwhile thing.
I didn't say college. I said college, community college.
I know.
Branch of armed forces.
Let me finish the question. So I wanted to pick up on the last thing you said, which is vocational education.
Yeah.
So what would that look like? Like how to fix cars, how to go to beauty school.
Everything from carpentry, electrician, operating engineer, bricklaying, painting. But
can you do it in high school? Like in my high school in upstate New York, we had the BOCES program, and you could actually do that in your 9th through 12th grade education.
We created a high school in Chicago for exactly that. And you also, one of the things we did in our community colleges, we had dual credit, dual enrollment. So we brought community college classes into high schools, and kids went from high school back to the community college. A lot of the community colleges had carpentry. They had electrical learning.
That'd be amazing, as we need it.
But it's a requirement to get your own high school diploma. Your kids are going to know because they grew up in your home. High school is just one step. For a lot, they're going to know where. If you ask your children where you're going to be in 4 years or whatever, they have a plan. I just got to be honest. In the city of Chicago, which is true across the country, not just Chicago, some kids, 4 weeks is their plan, not 4 years.
Yeah.
And making them think past high school, making it a requirement, stepping in where it's not happening at home, socializing this idea starting your freshman year is essential. That's number one. Number two, I happen to think investing dramatically in the most promising technologies of tomorrow ensures that America stays competitive. So that's part of not only you got to build these data centers. Mm-hmm. You got to build the submarines that we need to confront China.
Yep.
And we don't have that capacity.
We're not even really thinking about it.
No, we're not thinking about it. We're not investing in it. And the truth is, the mistake of the last decade, the best thing I can say about President Xi is he woke us up about a decade ahead of time. Now, are we making the most use of the time? Absolutely not. We have to start investing quantum computing, AI, biomedical, take alternative energy, take all the promising technologies of tomorrow, massive investment in the research side, what I call the brains part, and massive invest in the brawn side so we have the capacity to make the most of this. And if you start with AI education in school, every child, every student will have the basics and fundamentals to succeed as you look around the corner.
Unless the AI has already eaten us all by the time the children get this program. Let's talk about immigration, because this is another issue in schools and elsewhere that kids are dealing with. I mean, in New York right now, it's crazy. The number of translators they have to have in the public schools, what the kids who are American-born are having to deal with. Why do you think Joe Biden let between 10 and 20 million illegals into the country?
Yeah, so let me start with what I think the challenge is. And I'm not sure why Biden did that or the Biden White House. You're also, and I want to preface, because not your audience knows this, my father is an immigrant. My grandfather on my mother's side, 1914, comes to America. We're a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. That's who we are. And we're clear about the law. You break the law is going to follow you. That should be simple. And we're also a nation of immigrants. We want people from around the world who want a better tomorrow, people like from Asia, from Latin and America and Africa who want to come here and start a better future.
Legally.
Yeah, legally. Now, that's number one. Number two, and I just note is recent Gallup data all about how the numbers on immigration have flipped on Trump. The people reacted to the chaos on the border. Now, President Trump went from basically being the voice of order to the inspiration behind disorder. They do not like what he's doing in Los Angeles and around the country. They see him now the inspiration behind disorder. And I think if I was for the Democrats, we have no disagreement on confronting illegal immigration. We should be for, let's have a discussion about legal immigration, because there's a break.
Yeah, but you didn't answer my question.
On my way,
Why did Biden let 10 to 20 million illegal immigrants in?
They were not focused on what they should have been focused on. The border should never allow to be out of control. Now, he
opened it.
You're also talking to the person that, for President Clinton, was responsible for Operation Gatekeeper in San Diego, Operation Safeguard in Nogales, Arizona. The border should be secure.
So you disagree with what Joe Biden did?
I disagree with allowing chaos at the border where people can flaunt the laws. As again, my North Star is on immigration. We're a nation of laws, and we're a nation of immigrants. You have to honor both. You can't allow disorder at the border and assume there's going to be any respect for the rest of the process.
Yeah. Do you think, would you change any of President Trump's border enforcement mechanisms if you were elected president?
The border enforcement, no. I do think it's a mistake to call out, I say this 5 years, President Trump's been, first term, the first 6 months of his, the only place he's ever called out U.S. troops is on an American city. And I think that's absolutely wrong. You have a prisoner who's illegal? Pick them up. If they're in the orange jumpsuit, take them.
We'd love to, but the sanctuary cities don't allow it.
No. But here's my point. That's, a lot of states, all the states basically participate in making sure if you have a criminal element who is illegal, fine.
No, they don't. The sanctuary cities don't allow that. That's true.
Megyn, let me then go farther. You have people going to Home Depot to get a job. That's not the problem here. You have people trying to go to a place of worship at the Catholic Church. That's not the problem here. Border stuff, I said it. Problem is, and this is why President Trump's also numbers have flipped on this in the country, not only Republicans and immigrants.
I've seen the numbers. Yeah, the latest Gallup and the reason poll shows a shift in support on President Trump for his deportation program. Yeah, yes, and that's what we're talking about now. Yes, right. And you've endorsed the border policies, but not the deportation policies.
And I'm also, to then get back to where I was, there is a split in the Republican Party on legal immigration.
Yes, there is. Chamber of Commerce Republicans still want more.
And if Democrats were smart, said, we're good with you on illegal as it relates to the border. Now let's talk about legal, because that's where the wedge is in the Republican Party.
They haven't, though. They haven't.
Well, I'm aware of that.
Yeah. That's what makes you a little different. And some would say, therefore, not electable by Democrats. Like, I can see Rahm Emanuel, if he gets past the primary, appealing to some more centrist independent types. But that, I had Mark Halperin on the program recently. He's coming on next. And he was saying, your biggest problem is going to be getting past the primary, because with the Democrats who have moved to the left, who are endorsing democratic socialists like Mondami and this guy in Minnesota.
Well, look, that's what primaries, President Clinton wasn't who we know him to be, President Obama. Primaries will prove something, and we'll prove something. As I like to say, given the field, we're all stuck at that big number, 3%. Okay, that's where we are. I'll have to prove something. But, sometimes when you say let's say, quote unquote, the progressive left, who, as you noted, or as Mark has noted, have a problem. Was it the free community college, if you earn a B average in high school, you have a problem with? Was it the pre-K?
It was the Laquan McDonald tape,
so
right?
Was it the minimum wage? Yeah. And the Inspector General said that and did a report on it. And look.
Just the audience. Let me just tell the audience what that is. So when Rahm was mayor of Chicago, there was an officer involved shooting of a black man named Laquan McDonald.
Young man, yeah.
And there was a tape of the incident that was kept quiet, kept not accessible by the public by a decision by you for a year. And then ultimately, you can correct me when I'm done.
Yeah.
And then ultimately you released it, and it did show that the officer was to blame and that he shot when he shouldn't have. And then there was an immediate drop in polling in support of you by especially the Black and Hispanic communities in Chicago. And some have never forgiven you for not releasing the tape earlier. You can correct me.
As you're a lawyer, you know what the rules are as it relates in the middle of an investigation. So one, let me go all the way to the back. Laquan's uncle is a pastor on the West Side, big supporter of mine. And there's not a day or a week that goes by that I don't rethink what ifs. And you don't get a do-over in politics. You only get lessons learned applied forward. And I had thought I had fixed the system beforehand, and clearly the problems are much deeper. And I own that. That's why, and I take responsibility for that. And responsibility not only to fix it, but to also get the city in a better place. There's 7 attempts at police reform before I got there. This one is finally sticking. And the other thing is, Joe Ferguson, the Inspector General, went through it, said I followed. The problem was I did follow the procedures. That's the problem, is they were put in place, and you have kind of two tensions. On one side, if you got the FBI, the U.S. Attorney investigating, cities investigating, state is investigating. If you unilaterally make a decision, you hamper a criminal investigation. That officer served 3 years. If you don't do it, you only drive the wedge between the police and the community even further. And so you're caught between this Solomon-like choice. Either one you break the law, the other one.
What I hear you saying is you think it's explainable. You think this is not a deal breaker for you and Democrat primary voters.
Look, I have the responsibilities I did when I got Senate confirmed for Ambassador to Japan. I will explain it. I own it. And if you're looking for 100%, nobody is, but I learned my lessons going forward. And that's going to be true for anybody who's a chief executive.
Tying together the possibility of you as the Democrat nominee with our previous discussion on illegal immigration, you may be aware that Hunter Biden has some thoughts on you. Shared with a podcaster I do not know and have never heard of. Hold on a second, I'll tell you who he is. His name is Andrew Callahan.
Okay.
It's a 3-hour-long interview. This guy's a comedian and journalist and YouTuber. And Hunter had some thoughts on you, among other issues, including illegal immigration. Here he is.
And he's somehow convinced all of us that these people are the fucking criminals. White men in America are 45 more times likely to commit a fucking violent crime than an immigrant. And the media says, well, you got David Axelrod and, Rahm fucking Emanuel. Was so fucking smart, Rahm Emanuel. He said, we got to understand that these people are really mad. And we got to appeal to these white voters. Rahm, the only people that fucking appealed to those fucking white voters was Joe Biden, 81 years old. And he got 81 million votes, and he did not because he appeased their fucking Trumpian sense, but because he challenged it. And he said, you can be an 81-year-old Catholic from fucking Scranton that doesn't understand it, but still has empathy for transgender people and immigrants. And then nobody said, oh, Joe Biden's going to turn us into a socialist state, no matter how much they said it. But these guys think that we need to run away from all values in order for us to lead. I say, fuck you. How are we getting those people back from fucking El Salvador?
He's got a potty mouth. Neither you nor I have failed to utter that word in our past. I know this.
But we went 50 minutes here clean.
He's a big fan of it. I don't know. I kind of like Rahm fucking Emanuel. I could see that on a sign, not like a lawn sign for you. Yeah. Your thoughts on his thoughts about you?
I'm kind of feeling for Axelrod right now. He got thrown down in the gutter with me. I've got empathy. I don't. I think we're giving this more time than it's due. That's my own view.
Yeah.
A little empathetic. You have a son who's blinded by his own love for, in effect, and loyalty for his father. And I get that, but not the first phone call I'm going to make for strategery.
Good to hear. He's also been out there and said it there in part that saying the only reason that the Dems lost the last presidential election is because they weren't loyal to his father.
Yeah, Megyn, as you probably know, there's a lot of stories about Dems have to now start swearing to look like they're normal or something like that. I was 30 years ahead of my time. I'm like a good bottle of wine.
Still not normal? Is that
I mean, it's not. We spent 2 minutes way too much time on that.
This isn't about Hunter, but I know your brother Ari, according to the Jake Tapper book, was very outspoken about getting Biden off the ticket, saying he cannot do it. We need a plan. Come up with a real plan. You're not your brother's keeper, but you were Joe Biden's ambassador to Japan. Did you share those feelings?
I was appointed by Joe. I was America's ambassador to Japan.
Thank
you. And that's how I took the role. But I was honored that President Biden selected me. So here's my thing is, look, one, that everybody said, oh, it was a cover-up or whatever. 83% of the American people issued a judgment. If there was a cover-up, the American people were in on it because they had their own opinion. Number two, does this look like subtle, quiet, reserved?
No.
Okay, so number three, I have a general rule. I mean, just look. Oval offices are very seductive. Been in and out of them with two presidents for 8 years. White Houses, one of the challenges they have is not to be as insular as they become. It's pretty clear that both of those qualities played a role here. Now, I slightly disagree with other Democrats. I actually think this was a winnable race. It's pretty clear if you look at the data, it was a winnable race. And the real challenge, in my view, is why Democrats failed. It was not going to be a blowout race, but you could, the data was there and the capacity was there to win, and the Democrats fumbled it.
You think it was winnable with Joe Biden?
No, but it was a winnable race.
Okay.
No.
If there had been some sort of a reset.
Look, 70% of the country thought it was heading in the wrong direction. That's kind of architecturally built in for a challenger. But the day Kamala Harris takes over, the Democrats are down, Biden-Harris are down 8. By the time you get to her debate with Donald Trump, she's up 3. That's not a statistical error. She was running on the economy, running on what I think is the most important issue, that the American dream is unaffordable. It's inaccessible to the American people, and that is unacceptable to us. This shouldn't be that hard. Owning a home has become a struggle.
Yep.
The system is stacked against people. It used to be...
You're not wrong.
Okay, that's the fun. And we went off on all these other tangential... They're telling you what the core thing is. And when Kamala Harris spoke to it, she goes up +3. After the debate, she wanders off into this democracy thing. So in a weird way, when she makes a break with Joe Biden and says, I'm going to be the future, I'm going to be change, she...
But all the answers I don't distinguish my agenda at all.
But then basically... debate or from the View performance, she basically, I'm going to be continuity, she goes down. So to me, it tells you that, no disrespect to Hunter Biden's analysis, that this was winnable. Now, I do think there are, below that surface, forget 2024 for 1 second, I think the Iraq war, the financial meltdown of 2008, China into the WTO unchecked, and COVID have fundamentally not only upended our politics, upended our economics, upended our schools, and we haven't yet recovered from all.
Totally agree with that.
And
every word.
One, Iraq was built on a lie and a deception, and people responsible for it have never been held accountable. As somebody who in the Obama administration argued for Old Testament justice, the bankers should have been slapped silly on the South Lawn, line them up and just beat the living crap out of them. And they weren't. They were arguing for their bonuses and people lost their homes.
Yep.
Number 3, what we talked about China earlier still applies in this conversation, which is they were cleaning our clocks and we left America basically unilaterally disarmed to face off against China by themselves. And COVID also, and this is where I think Democrats made a mistake, we donned the jacket of the establishment, follow the science, when it's pretty clear, like take schools. COVID, as it relates to young kids, wasn't what it was related to people that were either both ill or old, much older.
And they're still suffering.
And now we have an absentee rate of 20%, and we look at our shoes and we don't want to talk about it. So when you look at those 4 things, that is, to me, the biggest structural challenges of our society, our economy, and our democracy.
Here's the thing I have to ask you. How is it possible for a cisgender, heteronormative male who happens to be Jewish to get the Democrat nominee for president in 2025 America?
Well, that's going to be up to the Democratic voters, but I'm going to make the best case. Yeah, I got that number. Don't worry about that. Look, let's just take like Jewish. Yes, I do, because I will say one thing. When I ran for Congress, my predecessors were Dan Rostenkowski, Roma Baczynski, Frank Annunzio, Rod Blagojevich, Flanagan, and along comes Rahm Emanuel. Same thing. There was only 2% Jewish in the district.
But the Dem Party has changed on Israel.
I'm going to get right there.
You know that.
I want to say, I've had Nazi insignia sprayed on our fence.
I've seen it.
And I still don't know, somebody go clean it up. So I've seen the best of people. I've seen people look not past faith, or more importantly, not past my faith, because it is who I am.
Yeah.
My name is Rahm Emanuel, not according to Hunter Biden, but it is who I am. Okay? So I look at that, and my faith and my Jewish education is what led me to public service. And I'm very proud of it. Now, by way, I am the only person who's ever gone toe-to-toe with Bibi Netanyahu. He called me a self-hating Jew publicly.
Oh.
So I support the state of Israel. I support its existence. I support it as a Jewish democratic nation, a sovereign nation. But I am willing, when I disagree, speak about that. And I've said that. But I think so? I do, because in the end of the day, our party believes in both economic kind of equality and also equality in a political system. And this country, this idea, and I say this, I want you to hear, my grandfather came here from Ukraine with nothing. That his grandson, that he used to call a schmuck, could be both a chief of staff to a president, a senior advisor, elected to Congress, the mayor of the city that we called home, and then represent America over. This is the greatest country in the world. Not because of my success, but because of the story and the permission that it has allowed somebody whose own grandfather didn't have a bucket to spit in and a window to throw it out of, could provide that opportunity. And I'll close on this because we didn't get to this about family. My parents, in our family room, had my grandmother's purse with her and my 2 great aunts' passports. And on either side of that purse were the black and white photos of my aunts, uncles, cousins on mom and dad's side who never made it to this country. There's nothing subtle in a Jewish home. You are given a gift. It's called the United States of America. You respect that gift and you honor that gift. And that is what I live with. And I think the country, as a father with 2 kids in the armed forces, will respect that.
Thank you so much. I think your children are wrong. You should talk about your dad and your grandpa and your kids. You nailed it.
Thank God it was only a minute because I was close to tears there and I see the Kleenex right there.
Rahm Emanuel, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Come back, will you?
Yeah, sure.
All the best to you. And we'll be right back with Mark. I want to tell you about Daily Look. Their mission is simple. Elevate your style. They work with top brands and emerging designers like AG, Good American, Kate Spade, Girlfriend Collective, and more. Sizes range from extra small to 3X and 0 to 24. Here's how it works. You fill out a style quiz with your particular preferences. Then you receive up to 12 hand-selected items at home. Keep what you love, return the rest. Shipping's free both ways. Daily Look is the highest-rated premium personal styling service for women. You get a dedicated stylist, not an algorithm, who curates each box based on your body shape, lifestyle, and taste. It's the same stylist every time. Try on premium pieces at home and save time. Visit dailylook.com and use code Megyn for 50% off your first box. It's time to get your own personal stylist with Daily Look. Head to dailylook.com to take your style quiz and use code Megyn for 50% off your order. 50, I say. Once again, that's dailylook.com for 50% off, and make sure you use my promo code Megyn so they know we sent you. Okay, we've got some friends of the show joining me now to recap what we just saw and talk about all the latest headlines as well. Let's get to it with 2 of the hosts on the MK Media Podcast Network. Mark Halperin, host of Next Up with Mark Halperin, and Link Lauren's here too. He's host of Spot On with Link Lauren, along with former Democratic strategist Dan Turrentine, a co-host of The Morning Meeting on the Two-Way YouTube channel with Mark. Guys, welcome. Great to have you.
Thanks for having us.
So fun. I didn't know which hour to look forward to more, but I'm psyched this one's here.
It's like game, post-game.
Yes. All right, so let's start. Let's pretend we didn't talk about the Rahm Emanuel interview during break, and give me your fresh impressions. Dan, you go first.
I thought he did great. I mean, I think considering this is like early in the game, no one's going to be perfect at this point. He had good answers. I thought when you asked him about the workforce and the economy, I thought even on immigration, right? You heard like echoes of Bill Clinton. We're a nation of laws, a nation of immigrants. He kept coming back to that. When you tried to talk to him about the border and everyone coming in, he said, I don't know why they didn't do it, but they shouldn't have. I thought he did well. I thought the one issue where he was a little bit was the transgender. That's obviously a touchy issue in the party, but I thought that he did very well. And when I think about people who understand what you need to do to win, that is somebody who understands what it takes.
Yep.
I think for me, maybe it's a generational difference, but half the electorate is going to be Gen Z and millennials by 2028. And when you think of Rahm Emanuel and you Google him, every picture is him cavorting with the Clintons, the Obamas, the Bidens. He looks like politics as usual, and he looks like the embodiment of the swamp. And even in the interview, I felt he came across a little smarmy, trying to control the interview. He was wishy-washy on some of the trans stuff. And it's like, you're a 65-year-old man. You've been in politics for decades, the upper echelons of politics, and you can't give straight answers on these questions that we want. And you kept asking about men in women's restrooms and in girls' bathrooms. He said, oh, it's not a dominant issue. Let's move on. That's not a dominant issue. But then Kamala Harris, part of the reason she lost were those swing state ads on taxpayer-funded transgender surgeries for inmates. These might not be the dominant issues to you, and you might think they're culture war issues, but they're still going to galvanize voters. So I just didn't find him that likable.
Okay, so he did not get Link's vote, Mark.
No.
And they're both right. I've known Rahm since your senior year in college,
Wow.
so I've known him a long time. Dan is right that Rahm, it graded on a curve against some of these other people who were talked about. His level of sophistication, his level of confidence, his level of understanding the intersection of politics and the press, it's light years ahead of almost any other Democrat, not just thinking of running for president, but almost any Democrat active on the national stage. But Link's right, too. There's so many issues related to Rahm that make it almost impossible to imagine him actually being the nominee. Not only because he's as your questions teased out, he's crosswise with the base, but he's yesterday. He's a longtime political figure, made millions, in investment banking. He's not on paper what the party is currently looking for. So I think he showed his best and his worst with you, and I think you asked him about all the right issues that teased that out and put it in sharp relief.
It was fascinating. So from my perspective, but I'll say one thing about yesterday before I get to my perspective. So was Joe Biden. He was yesterday, and he won. I'm talking about the first time around.
Yeah.
So there is the possibility that even though you've got baggage and you've got party affiliations and you've got all the connections for 50 years,
no question,
you could be the man.
Walter Mondale was the nominee too, but we're in a different time, I think, and even from 4 years ago.
We've got Mom Donnie now, right, as likely our next mayor here. So they're really going.
Maybe.
Let's hope not. But my own impression was, so I thought we had a very cordial first 48 minutes together. Mm-hmm. And that's good. I mean, and we kind of laughed about it after the fact that we're sure meeting number 2 will be a little bit more contentious.
Was that your first time with him?
Yeah, it was my first time interviewing him.
Got it.
People like Rahm Emanuel did not come on Fox News. Right. We did not have access
Back
to
in the day.
Yeah, so, but I liked it. We touched on some hot button issues, but we kept it cordial, and I think that's good. I really wanted the audience to get to know him, and I wanted to see if he would say normal things to me without me like beating him over the head or him beating me over the head. And I was amazed at some of his direct answers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, he wiggled on the trans thing for quite a while, but in the end, when we did our little lightning round, he did give me a couple of points. Like the men in prison, we have it cut. Here, watch.
I have a son and 2 daughters, and they are physically different. And that's why when it comes to sports...
Why did all the Democrats bail off of that point? A couple came out right after the election, and they said what you just said, and then they got browbeaten, and then they started to walk back.
The answer's in the question. I mean, that's not ever scared me. And, I used to say this to President Clinton and President Obama. Sound is not always fury. Sometimes it's just sound. And don't assume just because somebody's screaming at you, they represent more than their own voice.
Should we be putting men in female prisons? Men claiming they're women?
No.
And, all right, here's my last one for you. Can a man become a woman?
Can a man become a woman? No.
Thank you.
No.
That's so easy. Why don't more people in your party just say that?
Because I'm now going to go into a witness protection plan.
Is he? I mean, listen, you guys know, I realize that wasn't like hugely, like a huge breakthrough. Right. We all talk about what's true and what's real every day. But for a guy who wants to be the Democratic nominee, that was pretty bold.
Well, I think the overarching thesis and takeaway from the interview is just how broken the Democrat brand is, that a guy goes, men and women are different, and we're like, hooray, yay! He's like, oh my God, men and women have biological differences. We're going, yes, amazing, this is groundbreaking for a Democrat. It's like, that's how broken the identity is. But he's going to have a hard time in the primary because the Democrat Party has been co-opted by this like loud, progressive, vocal minority, and they just keep capitulating to them. So I don't really think he has a prayer. He might have some good ideas, and he seems strong on some issues, but I don't think he has a prayer in a
Does
primary.
that come back to haunt him?
No, I mean, I think, look, the interesting
it does not come back to haunt him?
No, and I'll tell you why.
Even hanging out with you might come back to haunt him.
There's right. There's 2 things going on. The first is the party after the election said, we know we need to make change. Now, anytime anyone's attempted to do it, as he said, the base has yelled. Rahm's issue is going to be both 2 things. He's going to have to do these sister soldier moments. The party needs to do sister soldier moments.
Where you break with your party.
And he's got that, right? I don't worry about that. Rahm's other challenge is he's going to have to throw some bones to the base. And where he chooses to do that, because the problem for Rahm is the energy's in the base, and the base can't stand him. You asked him about it. You asked about a very sensitive issue that he has with the black community. He's going to have to figure out, and I have no doubt he's thinking about this, where am I going to lock arms with them and unapologetically charge against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and everybody else? Other candidates, it's the complete opposite. They're inching up to that sister soldier moment. Gavin Newsom on the podcast with Charlie Kirk flirted with it, took so much heat, he then, and was really kind of struggling until the immigration thing propelled him forward within our party, maybe not the general electorate. So, I mean, Rahm's got 2 things. But again, He thinks about that stuff. He'll be smart about it. He'll be strategic. And I have no doubt when he does, he'll move forward aggressively.
Let me be honest about Rahm, since Rahm likes to be honest. Rahm's talented, right? He's one of the most talented Pauls. He's not Bill Clinton. He's not Barack Obama. He's not George Bush, and he's not Donald Trump. He's not in their league. He's a super talented staffer, which he once was. He was a super talented candidate for mayor, super talented DCCC head. He's talented, but he's not their category of talented. So can someone less talented than those four guys, all of whom stood up to their party and appealed to the base, right? Simultaneous, make people in the base feel good and stand up to people in the base. That's really hard. I just don't know that Rahm is talented enough to do that, except he's running against a bunch of people who are less talented. So he might be talented enough to do it, but he's not in their league.
But I will say the people he's running against, let's say it's like AOC, Gavin Newsom, they have some star quality and charisma. Yeah. That's what I was missing. Maybe if I watched it, I would get a different feel. But listening to it, it was kind of like low energy Jeb Bush, kind of like that sort of slow, smarmy.
I don't think he's low energy.
No, you don't, but it's just
he's
like
got
the
another
answers.
gear.
Where's the other gear though? I guess in this interview, it just felt kind of like low to me. And he's kind of like, yeah, I'm thinking about that. So I don't know if he has the star power and charisma to tap into this sort of like populism on the left that the right has had for so long. And then to go to what you mentioned, the reason President Trump caught fire in 2015 and 16 is because he was willing to call out the elites and the establishment in his own party, these neocons and who'd been running the party for 15, 20 years. I don't know if Rahm is going to be able to do that because the left likes, but the left, he is one, and the left likes to cast purity test way more than the right. You said one thing we disagree with, or we don't like this one little thing, so I think he's going to have a tough time.
He doesn't sound woke. I'm not sure whether any Democrat who's not woke is going to get nominated next time around. The party just does, they're captured by it. It's a cancer. It's metastasized. There's no excising it. I know normies like you, Dan, would like it to be, but I just don't think it can happen.
The only thing is our party's history, we flirt with these very progressive candidates. Howard Dean, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, Sanders in 16 and both of them in 2020. Our history is we back off and go with the safe candidate.
Yep.
Now, our party is more left than we were in the past, and at some point that may come to an end, that pattern. But as a party, we tend to value victory and who we think has the best chance way more than people, I think, kind of give us credit for.
Here's what's cautionary for me. What was the most obvious question you were going to ask him? What was the thing he should be prepared for more than any other?
About how he's going to win over his...
Well, trans, right?
Oh, you mean from me, Megyn Kelly? Yes,
so,
for sure.
So he basically tried to avoid answering until you wouldn't let him, right?
Yes.
That to me, I mean, how he could have been relative, maybe he thinks that was the right way to do it, but to me that seems unprepared, not just mechanically unprepared, but if he's not ready to confront that issue with you, what's he waiting for?
Yeah, for sure I'm going to be asking about that. Well, he also did, for the record, endorse minors getting puberty blockers into cross-sex hormones, meaning they get sterilized for life. They lose sexual function as long as their parents agree, which is not what the side of reason believes at all.
And his bathroom answer wasn't great either.
No, because he'd already allowed it.
But he could say on reflection, I think it was a bad idea.
And you gave him the opening on about Trump had involved.
Yeah. He did not abandon that.
Yeah.
But he did not say that a man could become a woman, and he said men shouldn't be in women's prisons, and he seemed to say men shouldn't be in women's sports.
But he's kidding himself if he thinks, I believe, he can say, that's not the focus. The focus is on the economy.
That's never going to fly with me or anybody else. Like, I'm sorry, whether it's hubris, we'll decide what the focus is. Like,
totally.
That's the one advantage of having this job.
But also the base will decide too.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying literally, having done all these presidential debates, I'm sorry, I will decide.
Correct.
It is up to me.
Correct.
I will be the one to put this issue.
Working class voters for whom that was a bigger issue than we thought it was. Right. It's just it's the cultural. Do you understand us? Right. We started losing them culturally in the '90s. We then lost them economically in the last 10 years. We got to win them back on both fronts.
And I don't want to just be negative about him because again, I think he's more talented than almost anybody else who might run. What he gave you was a bunch of tactical replies. Megan's going to ask this. I'm going to say this. I'm going to try to change the subject. She didn't change the subject. Now I got to answer. Did you feel as hard on any of those issues?
I liked the last answer about America.
I'm saying on the
No,
tougher
not on
issues.
those.
The American stuff's easy.
No.
He can do hard on that. There was no again, to go back to the question of authenticity, it was all tactics.
I think the education thing is legit to him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
that's an easy
sellable.
one.
It's a real issue. Exactly. Yeah.
On the easy ones, he's great.
Yeah.
On the hard ones, I thought it was all just tactical.
The one place I disagree with you, though, Mark, is on the vocational training stuff. Yeah. I do think he believes in it,
But that's easy. No one's against vocational training.
Well, but we've fumbled over what we want to do on the economy, to no end.
Sure, but he just, to me, he's not trying to show his heart on those things. Mm-hmm. He's just trying to get through it.
I wonder whether he'll have it improved to the point that he can sell it. Because, look, Gavin Newsom suffers from a different problem. And he was saying we're all at 3%. That's not exactly true. Kamala Harris is at 12. My God. Good luck, Dan.
Titan.
Let's go back to Rahm.
Right after Kamala is Gavin, who's up there, I think, single, maybe 9. Yep. And then everybody else is down lower. Mm-hmm. AOC's up there, but it's not going to happen. So he's right that there's no real front runner, and we don't think Kamala Harris is actually going to run for president again.
Right.
So it's really him and Gavin maybe looming up there. And Gavin Newsom, I don't know. He may be formidable. To me, he's just such an obvious snake oil salesman who will say anything depending on who's across from him. I just think people will be able to see through that from a mile away, and they might like the steady Eddie with a couple sharp elbows, Rahm fucking Emanuel, Rahm Deadfish, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, my thing with Gavin Newsom is he can't even call his wife his wife. She's like his partner, and she's given the man multiple kids. And then he was against men and women's sports for a minute in the Charlie Kirk interview. He's gone back. Now he's fighting with the DOJ. Gavin Newsom stands for nothing. So if Rahm Emanuel can have black and white, straight up answers for things, just be straight with the American people. And to go to your point, Dan, the left and the mainstream media constantly like to tell Americans what issues are important to them. Oh, trans is a culture war issue. It's not a big deal. Well, these millions of moms turned out for President Trump because it was a big deal. Oh, we don't care about seed oils. Food isn't going to decide this election. Those Maha moms came and turned out. So every issue matters now, especially with social media. I think Rahm's got to fine-tune some of these answers.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is, can I tell you, I was thinking about this last week. Right before the fall of the Roman Empire, the culture completely imploded with debauchery and no connection to faith or something bigger than oneself, and all these, not caring for the weak or, for unborn babies at all. And that's why the culture wars do matter. We're back there in some ways with thruples and people trying to normalize pedophilia with the minor attracted person label, and the cutting off of children's genitals in the name of equity and inclusion, dividing us by race, trying to make little girls boys when they're not. All this stuff, you can dismiss it as culture wars, but I actually think it's the degradation of a cohesive society. It's what happens when you remove faith as a guiding principle of any society. And it really is the road to end times. It's fine to just dismiss it as oh, your sweet little culture. No, it's the road to end times. Right. So if we don't fight back against it, we're going to completely lose everything that's dear to us. I don't know if he knows that or if he's just too much of a Democrat to really see that.
Yeah, he travels in circles where these things are not as big a deal. He just does.
What do you make of Gavin Newsom, though, against him? Those two on a stage. Picture that.
I still think Newsom's not going to run. I'm the only one who does.
You really do. Why?
Because in the interview I did with him on the MK Media Network, he talked about his daughter being upset that she had to, be followed around by one security person when she went out. And when are you going to leave? His daughter said, when are you going to leave office so I can stop this? If he runs for president and wins.
She's not going to stop running for. He doesn't even know the daughter's damn name. He doesn't. Who the hell is this daughter? Oh, please.
I also don't think his wife wants him to run.
You don't?
Oh, Jennifer Newsom.
First partner does not want him to run. I may be wrong. Maybe he'll do it, but I don't. If he does run and it's him against Rahm, then I think you will see an elevated debate. I think those two guys will have a serious conversation about the party.
With all due respect, this is a guy who sleeps with his campaign manager's wife. He's an alcoholic who kind of lied about going to rehab, and we're suddenly he's father of the year. His daughter really doesn't want him to run for president. Oh, please. He's going to run if he wants to run.
And they'll still make his daughter play against a boy in sports, even though he gives lip service that he won't when he's interviewing.
I don't know how he can't be thinking seriously about it and leaning towards it, given the last month and a half that he's had. I mean, we can all debate whether what he advocated for with the LA riots was smart or not. But he's had a moment in the party. I don't think anyone's had a better last month as a Democratic candidate for 2028 than Gavin Newsom.
Wow.
Because
the bar is low.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
Floor, seventh ring of hell.
But the party now, like if you read articles when he went to South Carolina, you look at focus groups, what does everyone say? He's fighting. Oh my God, he fights. He stood up to Trump. He now has this communications team where he's trolling J.D. Vance. He's trolling.
He's doing better on social media.
It's too much
he's
for me,
employing
I
a lot
think.
of the
Yeah, I
tactics.
mean, he's not speaking our language, but you have to acknowledge like
It's a
he's
lot
out
of
there
posting.
swinging.
It's a ton of posting,
he
yes.
is speaking the language of Donald Trump, which is nonstop front foot, in your face. I'm going to troll you. I'm going to hit you. I'm going to mock you. I'm going to do everything. And our base, just as the Republican base craved it in 15 of like, oh my God, he's not apologizing on immigration or any of this stuff. We can debate good general election strategy. But I don't know how you go to South Carolina and Jim Clyburn says, I like this guy, he's got a bright future, I think, and go home and say, well, hon,
I'm hanging it out.
yeah, all right, that was nice.
There's
I would have won.
There's four factors that I think get lost in the conversation about running for president that I don't know that he'll do as well in. And I'm very bullish, more bullish than you two are on his skills. One is, what are the early states they're going to vote? We don't know. But if the early states include Iowa and South Carolina, let's see how he does. Okay?
Gavin, we're talking about.
Gavin. Number two, raising money. He should be able to raise a ton of money as governor of California. He's got the best digital list to raise money. I want to see if he can raise serious money. Okay. Number three is effort. Is he willing to get up every day with his young kids and living on the West Coast and do the 10 things it's necessary to do to run? And then the last thing is, how do you handle a crisis? How do you handle a political crisis when they come at you? I don't think we've seen him handle political crisis particularly well.
Or real crises. There's nothing rebuilt in LA whatsoever. Not a single home is rebuilt.
But look at when he's been, like, remember that thing where he was on the cell phone and the lady was trying to talk to him? Like, that's, look at how Bill Clinton, look at how Donald Trump handled Access Hollywood. Look at how Bill Clinton handled Jennifer Flowers in the draft. Look at how Barack Obama handled Reverend Wright. Like, I just don't see in him someone who digs deep when that stuff happens. So in those four areas, he's not as great as he's been in some of these other things, as Dan pointed out. And I just think there's reason to be skeptical that he's going to play at that level.
I'll tell you something about Rahm that we didn't get into today. He's as vicious on Trump as Gavin Newsom is. Like, we didn't get into Trump today. He won't be running against Trump, notwithstanding what Steve Bannon says. And every Democrat is still going to run on Trump, right? Like whoever it is, whether it's JD or Marco or it could be Tulsi, who knows? It's going to be all about Trump. So I think he'll also appear as a fighter because he'll be out there saying the nastiest things possible about Donald Trump. And I do wonder though, like, how's that going to go? Because I don't think Rahm Emanuel or Gavin Newsom or anybody else I've heard of on Team Blue has the oratory skills of J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio, who are, I just think, going to eat their opponents alive. And either one of those guys will kill them unless they increase their game by the time they get out there.
Well, even Gavin Newsom, they thought he was going to do great in that debate with DeSantis. They're like, DeSantis, they're going to wipe the floor with him. Newsom's this snake oil salesman, greasy guy, talker. And he goes out there. Ron DeSantis holds up like a poop map. He just wipes the floor with Newsom in a way people, I don't think people were expecting. And Newsom kind of floundered and flailed. And I think that's what happens when you press Newsom. And we saw that in the Sean Ryan interview. He was pressed very delicately about 8-year-olds transitioning and cross-sex hormones for kids. Couldn't give a straight answer. It was a lot of this sort of air traffic controller, Bob Fosse, jazz hands, and he couldn't give an answer. And so Gavin Newsom, I don't even think it's a guarantee Gavin Newsom makes it out of a primary because you put him on a debate stage, he crumbles so quickly. Like, he seems unwell, like something's off with him, like he's going to crumble really fast.
I know what you mean. Like, why does he gesticulate so violently?
More than Tim Walz.
It makes me distrust him, really, because I've said this before, but my CIA guy, Phil Houston, invented the deception detection program there. They still use all over the world. Hands above the midline is a tell, if coupled with another sign of deception, that you're lying. Has to be 2 signs of deception within 5 seconds of asking the question. This is not voodoo. This is real. He's a human lie detector. He's outed bad guy terrorists who we thought were working for us. He's found double agents within the CIA who we thought we were using against another country, but really they'd been turned against us. Phil Houston is the man.
And he's ready to arrest Gavin Newsom.
He says, no, he hasn't weighed in on Gavin. But just FYI, hands above the midline can be a tell if it's coupled with another sign of deception.
I've literally never done that, by the way.
Like this.
I do it all the time, but I'm not a real blonde. Watch out.
Jazz hands.
I'm deceiving you.
Never move my hands.
I'll do it when I'm like making a point. It has to be coupled with something else, like a verbal attack. Like, how could you ask me that kind of a question? That's I'm lying.
Like Nathan Thurm on Saturday Night Live.
Who's he?
He's a character who would say stuff like, no, maybe someone should interview you. Maybe someone should investigate you. Why are you asking me all the questions?
All right, so that's enough about Rahm Emanuel and Gavin Newsom. This is a long way off, although kind of it's not. It always starts early.
I was just going to say, it's underway.
I don't know. It's too soon, okay? President Trump has been in there for 6 months.
Can I say one more thing about the very first question you asked him, why are you here? I thought his answer was abysmal. He just kind of joked about it.
You didn't like it?
He should have said, I want to reach every American. You have a huge audience of people who have been trending Republican, and I want to win them back. Not, I had nothing better to do. I don't know. I just thought that was, it set a tone. If he's serious about reaching your audience, I just thought that was kind of disrespectful.
Right. Come on bended knee with a bouquet of flowers. Yeah. That's a good point.
And say we got to fight for every vote. We can't let people who voted for Donald Trump vote Republican in 4 years. And again, I'm not against joking. I just think the reason that George Bush and Donald Trump and Bill Clinton and Barack Obama all won is because they ran simultaneously appealing both to their party and to a general election electorate. And he did this, seemed to me, just missed the opportunity to do that.
He told me before the interview, and I don't think he would mind if I repeated it because he seemed to suggest he might tell the story himself, that it was here in part because his sister-in-law listens to the show and heard me say something nice about him.
Yes. You should have said that.
Blended family could have done it.
Yeah, so he was like, well, maybe she'll give me a fair shot and I'll go over there. And I did. And so, listen, when he comes back, we'll see if he does better, if he takes these pieces of advice to heart. But I want to talk about Trump because there's been a very interesting development now within the intel community around Trump. Tulsi Gabbard late on Friday. And I just want to say, as on all things, I am a truly honest broker on this. I'm still trying to figure out what's real. I don't know.
Like who she is accusing of what, for instance?
No, whether she's right and Matt Taibbi, who I love, is right, that this is a bombshell and it's terrible and people really could go to jail, or whether Andy McCarthy at National Review, who I love and respect, and who's totally honest broker too, is correct, that this is a complete nothing burger and she's totally off and apparently hasn't read her own CIA director's release of last week. And that he would suggest she hasn't really been following the Russiagate scandal because everything she just told us is old. And so I'm really trying to figure out, but just to set it up for the audience, because it's very complex. On Friday night, Tulsi Gabbard went on Fox News and said that she'd found documents that she was releasing that show, in sum and substance, that one day the intelligence community under Barack Obama was ready to come out and say that the Russians did not interfere in the 2016 election and really had no part in it, and that whole thing was kind of bullshit. Then Barack Obama pulled them all into the White House. They had a big meeting, and then literally the next day, they were like, Russia interfered to help Trump, and leaked it to all the reporters, Washington Post. And the suggestion is that Obama turned to them and said, I'm not having a report coming out of you guys saying that they didn't interfere. Our whole narrative is that Hillary would have won had it not been for the Russians. Now give me a report that says that. That's the implication. And that then the intel community did it, and the subservient Washington press corps ran with it. And that's how the narrative really took off, that the Russians had gotten Trump elected. Okay, so Andy McCarthy's point in response is, okay, you're talking apples and oranges. What they said prior to the Obama meeting was, we've seen nothing to suggest the Russians hacked election machines, even though they tried in a couple of places. But that they were not able to do anything technologically that would have altered the outcome of an election with raw vote. Then they have the Obama meeting, and then they come out, and it's true that their report that they issued then was all about the ways Russia did interfere, like fake articles about Hillary, bots that circulated negative news about her, and they hacked the DNC mail, which is how we have a lot of the admissions we have from her and her terrible family. Anyway, he's saying it's apples to oranges. And while she is producing now emails that do show they were ready to say no interference when it comes to election machines prior, that we kind of knew everything that she's saying already. I'm going to show you her announcement. I think we have it, guys, don't we? On Friday night. Yeah, SAT 9. Let's play it.
Spells out in great detail exactly what happens when you have some of the most powerful people in our country directly leading at the helm, President Obama and his senior-most national security cabinet, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper, and Susan Rice, and others, essentially making a very intentional decision to create this manufactured, politicized piece of intelligence with the objective of subverting the will of the American people. The list goes on and on about the consequences of President Obama and his senior cabinet members politicizing intelligence once again, and I say these words very clearly, to enact what was essentially a years-long coup, subverting the will of the American people.
One of the other points Andy made was that he's not a fan of Tulsi. He wasn't behind her confirmation. But he's also saying it's not a surprise to him that Tulsi Gabbard would try to exonerate Russia entirely and instead blame America, right? Like sort of say Russia didn't do anything whatsoever. And his point is she's overstating it. Russia did do some things, but it didn't cost Hillary the election. Andy doesn't contend that. But that we're now sort of manufacturing something for press clicks and possibly indictments that may not be there. Anybody want to take this?
I mean, look, I'll say this. I am with you. I'm not sure what she's doing, because I think what she's trying to argue is it wasn't determinative to the outcome. But there is no debate Russia tried to influence the election. As you say, they bought ads on YouTube. They bought ads on Facebook. They had chat bots. They hacked email. They wanted Donald Trump to win. Now, the question was, did the Trump campaign collude? Robert Mueller ruled there was no definitive proof that they colluded. But I'm not sure I almost get the sense that what she's saying is like, they didn't try to interfere in the election. And what's also fact is, the Obama administration, the last month of the campaign, was aware of what was going on and struggled. Do they go public with this? Do they put it out? If we do, it's going to look like we're trying to tip the scales. After the election, they huddled and said, we need to get out, both as like a PSA, hey, Russia, you tried to do this and we're aware of it. And then they said, was there collusion? Was there perhaps something more there? I think that latter part they wanted to put out into the kind of, mainstream to be like, someone needs to go look at this, right? And obviously that enraged Trump, and he didn't want, he wanted everyone to know that he did this. But I'm not sure what she's implying. If there's real signs of crime or malfeasance, then by goodness, put it out and let the public see it. But I'm very skeptical.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Have you looked at this? I mean, it's very smart people who I normally trust are in diametric disagreement on it.
If she sees a crime, she's got to say who and what law they broke. It's just too vague. I'll pick up on a point Dan made, which I know because I did a lot of reporting on this. They really did struggle with what to say. They didn't want to let the Russians go uncalled out in public, but they also didn't want to be accused of trying to make it seem like the Russians were doing something. They were pretending the Russians were doing something to help Hillary. I actually think there's 19 things you could list that say cost Hillary Clinton the election, and this is one of them. It was very close. You don't know what would have happened otherwise, but I think Russia helped Trump win substantially, not through collusion, but because they wanted Trump to win, and that is something she's playing down. What she's playing up is that they somehow broke the law in trying to protect Hillary Clinton. And again, I just
she's
don't
suggesting
see the
they manufactured it. She's basically suggesting this is the same thing as COVID, where the scientists went from, this looks like it came from a lab. We've never seen such a virus from an animal. And then after Fauci and Collins browbeated them, they came out and they were like, it's definitely not from a lab. It's from a pangolin.
There are people associated with Barack Obama who leaned into collusion without a doubt. And that wrong. I don't know if it's against the law. It was dirty pool. But mostly what they said was the Russians interfered with the election, and they did.
I think this is a little bit of cosmic karma. Everything comes full circle because Tulsi was accused by Hillary Clinton and the Obamas, I believe, of being like a Russian asset. I think she went on The View and said she's owned by Russia. She's a Russian puppet. And Tulsi was coming out saying, I'm nobody's puppet. I've served this country. I'm a woman in uniform, as she is, and she's a rock star. But yeah, no, I think this is a little bit of cosmic karma. She gets to now come out and say, look at what we've just uncovered in these files. But I think it's Monday. Maybe by the end of the day, we'll have more information because I read on the way over here, she's now given something to the DOJ or
She said it's going to come out this week. We're going to see leak.
I think it was weird Friday night to make make the announcement with everything going
Yes,
on?
I know. Why? They put out news that's bad for them heading into a weekend after a holiday.
like-
They put out news that's good for them a Friday night.
Hannity will be here Monday, so I don't know. I have to go on tonight.
That might have been an Epstein circle.
I was just
breaker.
going to say.
Maybe.
yes.
I'm not sure that's going to work either. We'll talk about that when we come back. Let's take a break, and then we will discuss where we are in Epstein Palooza. Stand by. Remember when you were a kid with an iron stomach? Pizza, ice cream, PB&J, nothing seemed to faze you. These days, however, you might feel like your stomach can be a bit of a bear trap. One wrong bite, and you're done. Here's the thing. Years ago, our ancestors ate lots of bitter plants daily that made their digestion work. Yes, bitter plants. But our modern diet has completely eliminated these essential compounds. You've heard me talk about Just Thrive probiotic before. I take it every morning. And now they have their newest product, Digestive Bitters. These tasteless capsules contain 12 bitter herbs they say help wake up your digestive system for results you can feel. No more bloat, burps, or belly aches after meals, just comfortable digestion like when you were younger. Just Thrive Digestive Bitters can help your cravings and keep you satisfied longer. Just try the Just Thrive probiotic and Digestive Bitters today, risk-free. And you will save 20% if you use code MEGAN when you check out at justthrivehealth.com. See the difference for yourself, or just get a full product refund if it doesn't work out for you, no questions asked. That's justthrivehealth.com, code MEGAN, because your health is your greatest asset. If you're stressed about back taxes, maybe you missed the April deadline or your books are a mess, don't wait. The IRS is cracking down. Penalties add up fast, 5% per month, up to 25% just for not filing. But there's help. Tax Network USA can take the burden off your shoulders and stop the spiral before it gets worse. They've helped thousands of Americans, whether you're an employee, a small business owner, or you haven't filed in years. Messy books? No problem. They've seen it all. Tax Network USA has direct access to powerful IRS programs and expert negotiators, too, on your side. You'll get a free consultation, and if you qualify, they may even be able to reduce or eliminate what you owe. More importantly, they'll help protect you from wage garnishments or bank levies. So don't wait for the next IRS letter. Call 800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Megan to talk to a real expert at Tax Network USA. Take the pressure off yourself. Let Tax Network USA handle your tax issues. So you were saying before the break, it's fancy here, isn't it? It's fancy.
Looking around, something I can steal.
Yeah.
Like an ashtray. Do they have ashtrays?
You know what's funny? I don't think anybody does anymore. Yeah. The same guy has been driving me and my family for since I started at Fox. Super nice man. And he was dropping me off today and he said, Megan, you've been coming to this same location because the series is right across from Fox and right across from NBC. He's like, for almost 20 years now.
As long as you can spit a watermelon seed far enough to hit the other building, that's good for you.
It's like this is Media Central, and it does bring back a lot of memories. Anyway, so we were saying before the break that possibly the Tulsi Gabbard thing was a head fake to change the topic of conversation from Epstein. Did it work?
Well, it's hard to know, right? Because what the two intervening things that seem bigger around Epstein, one is the Wall Street Journal story, which rallied MAGA back towards the president.
Yep. And
the other is the announcement of the filing to ask the grand jury transcripts to be released. I think those two things did the most to take the steam out of it for the media, even though the New York Times now seems obsessed with reviving it.
So I want to say two things. I don't think we're going to learn much from the grand jury, files at all. And I think the Trump administration knows that.
Yep.
So, he says, nothing I do will ever satisfy them, which is true. Yeah. But this definitely won't.
Yeah.
This won't even come close.
It's not a good faith effort to satisfy.
It's definitely not a good faith effort. But secondly, on the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal hit piece, it was so lame. It was the best thing Trump could have asked for. Yeah. And I realized he came back swinging, but even if he had, there's nothing we on the right hate more than the left's fake news hit pieces on Donald Trump. We've seen so many of them. The guy literally took a bullet. He's been put through hell. We have all had it up to here with the false attacks on Donald Trump. And so the best thing that the left, and I include the Journal's report in that, could have done was just be quiet and let it stay a Trump/influencer problem.
Yeah.
Don't help, because that only makes people on the right want to drop it and defend him. Yeah. And that's kind of where I am. It was such a lame... I'm very interested in what the truth about Epstein is. Very interested. you try to tell me the whole scandals about Donald Trump, fuck off. Right. I'm out. Like that's a lie. We know that we would know that by now if it were true. I will not be your truth warrior on that because I know it's not right. But I do want real answers in the underlying scandal. Go ahead, Link.
I just feel like the left really wants to tie Trump to Epstein more closely, and I think that's what the Wall Street Journal really was about. I mean, I just have a hard time believing he's sitting there drawing and doing this. The whole thing sounded really silly to me. And then there's also still this narrative online that, maybe Trump visited the island. I'm like, the guy doesn't even stay in hotels that don't have his name on it. I certainly don't think he visited the island, but they want to keep tying Trump to Epstein. I think J.D. Vance is still looking like a winner because he doesn't seem as mired down in the Epstein stuff. J.D. Vance, I don't think he's spoken about it as much. He's now rallying around the president with the Wall Street Journal story as he should. So I think going into 2028, I don't see this Epstein stuff having really any bearing on the election.
He brokered the peace between the FBI guys, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and Trump.
Right.
And because Trump was mad at them after the she goes or I go thing with Dan, and that reportedly J.D. Vance stepped in.
You want me to take an opposing view?
Yeah, go for it.
Do it.
Okay. Trump is making these decisions about what the country learns, about something people are really interested in.
Yes.
And he's got a conflict. He was close friends with the person at the center of this. How close? I think the Wall Street Journal story, if true, speaks to that. You say he stays in his own hotels. I've never heard of Donald Trump flying on anyone else's plane, ever. Flies on his plane. He flew on Epstein's plane. That suggests something. Again, I'm not assuming facts, not evidence. I'm not saying the president broke any laws. I'm not saying he did anything improper. But he was close friends with the guy.
For 15 years.
Yeah, and so he should really be recused from this in terms of the public interest and confidence in decision-making. So any story that illustrates or claims to illustrate their closeness, I think just speaks to that. You think about it. He shouldn't be the one deciding these things because they're about his good friend.
That's a pipe dream. But let me tell you something. My own feeling is not that Trump has something to hide in these files. I really don't believe that. But I do believe Trump probably has some powerful donors and or friends.
Which is why he shouldn't be deciding.
But I think that's
got a conflict.
Is that the question, it dies down if there's no more new oxygen. But I think we've all probably heard there are more stories in the works. Now, they may not ever see the light of day. There may not be anything there. But I think, to Mark's point, they were close friends. New York and Palm Beach are small worlds. We're sitting in, one of them right now. If there's another story and it starts to get closer to him, then I think this continues to have more oxygen and people start, it brings it back in front of the public. People demand stuff. And to Mark's point, people start thinking, is Trump hiding something about his friends or about him or what is it?
Trump it brought that piece of it on himself. Yes. If Trump had just stayed consistent with the base, and this had never been Trump's issue. He really hadn't been touting Epstein on the campaign trail, though his son touted it many, many times, and so did his top deputies and his emissaries out on the campaign trail. But if Trump hadn't done that weird answer at that cabinet meeting and then gone on the attack against the MAGA base, nobody would be thinking this is like a Trump scandal. Right. They just, he's making it, he's so defensive on it, it's making people be like, 100%. Whoa, there's the target right there. Go ahead, Link.
Is there a simpler explanation here? When I look at President Trump, I think, is he bored, right? Sometimes I look at him and go, is he bored by something? That's sometimes an explanation. And I think President Trump, because he doesn't live on X, because he has Fox rolling 24/7, that's what he watches, they're not really covering Epstein that much. And I don't think he really gets everything that's happening on X in the podcast space with the discussion around Epstein. I think President Trump is also frustrated because he had weeks of just consistent winning, right? When it came to the border, the Iranian nuclear facilities, going down to Texas with the grieving families. I know because I was there. But President Trump had weeks and weeks of winning. And then now he's like, you guys want to talk about Epstein, this loser scumbag?
His attorney general should not have put out that memo.
Right, but he is going to stand by Pam. She is not going any freaking where. Even at, what's so funny to me is at that FIFA soccer game, Pam Bondi was in the box. So was Rupert Murdoch. And now he's suing Rupert Murdoch 5 days later. But yeah, I think Pam Bondi's not going anywhere. She's Florida. Susie Wiles likes her, and she's good on cable. And so I don't see her going anywhere anytime soon.
I don't know if I agree with that. I really don't, because I believe Trump likes her and doesn't want to switch out his AG, and Susie Wiles likes her, but the base has turned on her. They will forgive the big man. They're not going to forgive her. Mark my words.
I think it'll take some time, like with the Mike Waltz situation. I don't think he's going to give a dog a bone right now and give you the body and the head that you want. Could I see her going and being moved and shifted down the road? Sure, I don't see it happening now in the dog days of summer.
And my information is that she's miserable anyway. I don't think she's happy anyway.
Yeah, comfortable with the status quo.
Yeah.
It's so remarkable, too, because he's so culturally deft. He so has his finger on the pulse of his base, of what's being talked about around the country. This is the first time in 10 years that I've just seen him on the wrong side of this, repeatedly. To your point, he's dug in about it. And that is surprising, right? You would just think he's so smart and so clever that he would see this, he'd shift, other than, throwing out something like the Russia with Tulsi Gabbard. When does he make that move, right? And how does he do it? Because as a Democrat, I just am like, whoa, you're so on your back foot, you can't get off it.
I know this is a weird place to go with it, but it in a way, it kind of reminds me of what happened at Fox with the Gretchen Carlson investigations. She filed this lawsuit. Nobody liked Gretchen. No one really wanted to deal with her. We all knew she got fired because she had terrible ratings and she wasn't popular. But then she dug up this Me Too allegation, which we were all like, oh, sure, whatever. Even I was like, there's no way that's why she got fired. And even though I knew what Roger had done with me, to me, not with me, years earlier. But what was happening in that case was Roger had managed to limit the investigation into Gretchen's allegations to only the team that worked with her on her show, which would mean he would never get the investigators, Lachlan and Rupert and their lawyers, would never get to the women who actually had stories. And this grand jury thing has that feel to me. Like, I don't think we're going to hear anything from those grand jury files regarding any Trump friends, any super rich New Yorker or Floridian who, because, Julie K. Brown, as annoying as she is, was on, was it Ross Douthat's, whatever his last name is, Douthat's podcast over the weekend. And she was once again reminding us all that he is believed, Jeffrey, to have trafficked girls to third parties, to other rich men. Yes. And she was naming some very rich men. I'm not going to name them here. You can listen to the podcast if you want to. As like having made Jeffrey super rich, super fast, other than just Les Wexner, the Victoria's Secret guy, other than him. And it just really got me thinking again about the fact that there really are reports, there are women out there who can point the finger at a third man or a fourth man or a fifth man. And I got dollars to donuts that those names probably aren't in the grand jury.
Yeah, but the point of it was to just say we're doing something. We're for disclosure and see where this story goes. And from their point of view, hope it goes away. Which it could.
Yep.
I'm also never really into file dumps. Like people said, we want JFK, we want RFK, we want all these files. And then they made noise for like 6 hours online and we didn't really learn that much. There was no big bombshell. The earth didn't come to an end. Nothing shattering happened. So I don't really lose sleep over it. Like if we learn something new, we learn something new. But I don't find it all that interesting.
Well, let me ask you this. What's the net effect of all of this? Because, my own feeling is I didn't like how Trump handled this, especially last week. But it didn't change my feelings about Trump. I still support him. I still think he's incredibly good for the country. He is chalking up so many wins. Yeah. So like you look at the fact that Trump is getting boys out of girls sports. He is stopping the mutilation of children. He is closing down the border. He is deporting dangerous illegals. All that matters way more to me than about Epstein. But there are people in core MAGA for whom, this is a very big issue, and it speaks not to just like their conspiratorial nature, but like the system that protects corrupt rich guys and shits on the little people. And that could be an ongoing problem.
I think it's huge because, look, the last 3 elections have been games of inches. 2-3%, right? Trump barely wins in 16, barely loses in 20, barely wins in 24. As you just said, for the first time in 10 years, Trump and his movement have been defending the status quo, defending institutions, right? You have Charlie Kirk saying, I trust the government. Like,
right.
We haven't heard that in a decade. And for these younger people, and I give Trump tons of credit to get all these young people to buy into him, to buy into MAGA, to believe in him, they're saying, wait a second, this is no different than what we kind of heard during COVID. Some people go back to the Iraq War, and Rahm kind of touched on all these different things. That's where I say he's tone deaf a little. How does he fix that? Not that they're rushing to us Democrats yet, because we have a huge trust problem with them. But for the first time, we've been about change. We've been about transparency. And the Republicans are just...
That's where you fell off a cliff, Dan.
But also, Dan,
you got to start somewhere.
Maybe Elon Musk and his America Party, maybe they'll get a couple.
Yes.
But they're not going Democrat.
Here's my thing. If I'm President Trump, right, he's looking at these polls that even CNN is running that he's gone up the last week or two, even with all the Epstein stuff. And I think one of the takeaways is, even if there are really loud voices on X and in the podcast space, they might not have as much effect on these polls and in the broader electorate. And I think for President Trump, because he's not living in those online spaces, he's like, I'm winning, I'm killing it, we've got the most secure border. Why aren't you talking about this? I'm bored bored with Epstein. I think it's really that for me. I don't think it's so much the friends or there's some secret thing he's hiding. I think he's like, I'm bored. Why are we talking about this guy? He's dead. He's gone.
Some piece of Trump genuinely believes this is a Democrat conspiracy, that like this is like a long trap that's been laid by Democrats somehow. I haven't totally figured it out, but I think there's a piece of him that does genuinely believe this is like some sort of a thing that's been laid for him. And I reported this earlier. I was told by a few people that there is a belief, this is not confirmed, that there's a belief that there were some like poison pills put in the files by the Biden team before leaving office, that would make it such that Trump wouldn't want to release the files. I have no idea whether that's true, but now I've heard it from a couple of people, and even President Trump intimated it.
Credible. I want them to put out the credible documents, is what President Trump keeps saying now when he's gaggling. She can put out anything that's credible. And so I think he's just worried there could be some stuff in there that's supposed to paint him in a negative light. And he's like, I'm winning so much. My polling is great. Why are we talking about this?
Why don't you just love me the way I deserve to be loved?
I think he's bored with it. I think he's so bored. And the news that he's watching isn't covering Epstein at all. And his aides might be coming to him saying, this is really big online. This is big online. And I think he's like, I'm sick of this.
Yeah, I don't like online. So Mark Halperin, does it affect him in any way, shape, or form, or no?
I don't think so. I think it's the 485th lesson that we all should be humble and remember that Donald Trump understands MAGA better than we do.
Yeah. And politics in general. I mean, the guy's instincts for it have been spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on. To
pun intended. Trademark, copyright.
And he can do stuff and say stuff that other people can't.
Yeah.
I think it's also July. I was talking about this with someone yesterday. I'm like, it's the middle of summer. It's July. I think a lot of people are at home. I think by a couple of weeks we won't even be discussing.
Well,
this.
maybe that's why they released it when they did. Because it's summer. I was just amazed that they released it during such a slow news time when the media is always looking for something to chew on. Yeah. And this has been such a juicy story.
If they're super sophisticated, maybe they figured out it can burn out over the summer.
Same way BBB is going to burn out by the time we actually get to the midterms. It's happening. All right, guys, a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. We never get to be in the same room.
Know.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Okay. Tomorrow, we've got another MK Media star, one of the EJs. Emily Jashinsky will be here for the full show. Don't miss that.